What happens when I make a cruel drunk joke about my husband's body at a crowded bar and call it honesty? How can a quiet man answer that wound without shouting or breaking the law? Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. I'm Ligeia Morrow, 32, a payroll assistant who keeps other people's lines straight while mine bend for attention. My husband, Vale, 34, is an architect who loves quiet drawings and steady plans. He said calm builds a home. I said bold truth keeps love alive. He asked why I needed a crowd. I said crowds help people see the real us. He asked if I could be kind. I said jokes show confidence. Nova, my sister, said a woman should own the room. Rico, a friend at a rooftop bar, said I always looked awake under lights. I liked those words. They made me feel taller. Graham asked for soft nights and small talk. I said a little edge is healthy. He went quiet. I called that control instead of care because control fits my story. At home, I noticed small things. 2 mugs dried on opposite counters like strangers. The guest bed stayed too neat, corners sharp. On the wall planner, a blue circle said, Downtown 1340. I asked what that meant. He said it was work. I said boring. His laptop showed a spreadsheet with initials and dates, then slid away to a blank screen. A cloud pop-up flashed. File uploaded successfully and vanished. 3 folders sat in a row. Home, auto, bank. He said he was organizing. I said he loved drama in slow motion. A thin binder labeled utilities felt thicker than bills. Inside, a sticky note read, Bring forms. His phone lit with a thread titled Follow Up and then went dark. He moved to the guest room and let the door latch click. I told myself he needed proof that I still shine in public. I told myself a sharp joke would wake him up and make him try. I did not ask if waking someone with a joke counts as kindness. I boiled water for tea and let the kettle sing a second longer so he would come to the kitchen. He came with that even step he used for everything. He asked if I had time to rest before the weekend. I said rest was for people who had already impressed the room. He asked if the room needed impressing tonight. I said the city liked a little heat on a Thursday. He reached for the mugs. I had already placed 2 clean ones on opposite counters. I said they dried better apart. He looked at the distance and said nothing. I called his silence caution in my head and then called it guilt, because guilt made me feel tall. I opened the fridge and let the cold light pour out like a stage. I said out loud that brutal honesty keeps a marriage from rotting. He asked if honesty meant jokes about private things. I said, grown-ups can joke because jokes mean confidence. He rinsed the kettle and set it back. I watched his hands for a tremble and found none. I do not like steady hands when I am building a scene. On the wall planner, a neat blue circle sat over Tuesday with the note Downtown 1340. I traced it with a fingernail and asked what was downtown. He said a quick work errand. I asked what kind. He said scheduling. I said scheduling is just choosing a time, so why write it on the wall? He said paper helped him remember. I said phones remember better. He said some things live better on paper. The words some things tasted like a hint, so I dressed them as mystery and put them away for later use. My phone buzzed with Nova's message. She said a woman must own the room and that I should start funny, end warmer. She sent a clip of a girl at a mic making the crowd scream. I said I could do better with half the effort. Nova sent a fire emoji. Fire loves dry rooms. Rico slid in with a short note under the single emoji I saved for him. He said the rooftop bar had a new ring light and that I always looked awake under it. I wrote that awake looked good on me. He sent a thumbs up and a peach I refused to read. Graham wiped a circle of water from the counter and asked if I needed rides tomorrow. I said I needed applause. He said applause fades. I said architecture fades too if nobody looks. He moved toward the study. His laptop glowed with a spreadsheet. Initials in one column, dates in another. I stepped close and he pressed a key. The screen changed to a neutral field, then to our bank login. A cloud icon flashed file uploaded successfully and vanished. 3 folders sat in a row. Home, auto, bank. I said he was nesting like a winter bird. He said he was organizing. I said organizing is drama in slow motion. He did not bite. He never bites. He measures. I carried my phone to the spare room. The guest bed was too neat, like a hotel waiting for a travel name. I pressed the quilt and it held the shape of my hand for a second. I told myself he made it for Iris to nap sometimes. Then I told myself he made it for distance. I like the second story better because it keeps me shining. On the shelf, beside the printer, sat a thin binder labeled Utilities. It felt heavy for bills, like a book with a second spine. I opened it and saw a sticky note inside the cover with bring forms written in tidy blue letters. I asked from the doorway what forms he needed. He said service forms for the heater, nothing major. I said the heater works fine. He said winter makes fools of people who forget. I said he liked turning appliances into morals. He smiled and adjusted his headphones around his neck like he was testing the weight of air. I stepped out on the balcony and took a selfie with the city behind me. I tried a caption about how truth is love wearing shoes. I saved it instead of posting. Timing makes or breaks a line. I have learned that much. A neighbor on the next balcony stared for half a second and then went back inside. I decided her stare meant admiration and not pity. It is easy to win when you choose your judges. Selma, his mother, texted the family thread with a simple reminder about Iris's bedtime and a picture of a stuffed rabbit waiting on a pillow. She added that quiet helps children grow. I typed that bold mothers raise bold daughters. She sent a single rose. The rose looked like a period. I told Graham I planned a soft opener at the bar tomorrow, something about how couples who laugh last forever. He asked if the laugh would be kind. I said truth sometimes sounds sharp but heals later. He said wounds also heal, but the scars stay. I said scars make stories, and stories feed love. He asked if love needed feeding by strangers. I said strangers are the public, and the public keeps us honest. He asked who asked the public to move in. I said, welcome mats are warm. The kettle clicked off. I poured water and handed him a mug, then set mine far away again, handles pointing different ways. I said it prevents mix-ups. He nodded and thanked me. He always thanks me for the smallest thing, as if manners could hold walls up by themselves. My gallery still showed a cropped photo of a document corner on our dining table. I had no memory of taking it. The edge looked serious. I closed it and opened a folder of party clips to push the feeling away. Nova pinged a split-screen idea for tomorrow's stories. Me laughing, me raising a glass, me turning my head like the city was an admirer. She said the algorithm loved arcs. I said I would give it one. The smell of printer toner lifted from the study, though the printer stayed quiet. I asked if he had printed anything. He said no. I said the smell must have traveled from the hallway. He said maybe a neighbor had a report to run. He put on his headphones and spoke low into his phone near the bookshelf. I caught a few words that sounded like numbers, and the phrase save messages. He listened longer than he spoke. He ended the call and tucked the phone in his pocket. He asked if we could try for kindness tomorrow. I said kindness arrives after applause. He said applause is a kind wind that leaves no heat. I said his metaphors were dry. He said dryness keeps paper from bleeding ink. I said ink looks good when it runs. He said houses fall when lines run. He placed a small stack of mail in the blue tray by the door and flipped it so the newest envelope sat underneath. He said it made sense to handle older things first. I said it made sense to post new things first. He smiled without showing teeth, which made me think of doors that open only for codes. I walked to the bedroom and sprayed the perfume I used when I wanted rooms to feel like they were mine. He stood at the planner again and tapped the blue circle, downtown 1340, with one finger. I asked if he wanted me to send him a reminder. He said he had one. I said alarms are for people who forget. He said remembering is kindness. I said I would remember to save us. I sat on the bed and drafted lines in my notes app. I wrote that size is a small word for small things. Then I deleted it because it felt messy without music under it. I wrote that humor proves comfort. Deleted that too. I stared at my own face in the black screen of the TV and raised my chin until it looked like confidence. He paused in the doorway and asked if we could put phones away after Iris fell asleep. I said one photo would not break a spine. He said peace breaks easily. I said peace is for people without sparkle. He said sparkle blinds as often as it lights. I said blind men are not my fault. Night pressed its thumb on the city. He walked down the hall to the guest room. The sound of his step was steady, not angry. I do not know what to do with steady when I want spark. He set his mug on the dresser and closed the door. The latch clicked with the soft authority of a period. In the dim kitchen, his muted phone lit for one breath with a thread titled Follow Up, then went dark. My phone buzzed a moment later with a calendar reminder I never made. Meeting, personal, downtown 1340. And the alert slid away before I could tap it, like a fish slipping off a line. I told myself it was a glitch. I told myself tomorrow the rooftop light would love me. I told myself the right joke could save a marriage if the delivery was perfect. I arrived at the open plan office early and let my heels mark the floor like a metronome. I liked that sound. It made me feel efficient and tall. Taryn looked up from her cube wall and asked if the rooftop still did late sets. I said the music did not matter because the view sold the night. She asked if Graham liked crowds. I said Graham liked calm, and I liked results. She rolled her chair back with a smile that asked for news. I gave her none. I wanted to keep the story warm until I needed it. I opened invoices and cleared 3 vendor errors in 10 minutes. Speed calmed me because speed looks like virtue. My mind still ticked around last night's small things. The blue circle on the wall planner, the word downtown 1340, the smell of printer toner without paper. I told myself paper smells travel. I told myself he plans because planning is his love language, and I keep missing the accent. A group chat pinged. Nova had cut a tiny trailer from my old balcony clips and wrote that the city needed me. She told me to start funny and then land soft. I said I could do both with one sip. She said the algorithm loved arcs. I said I would give it one. Taryn leaned over the partition and showed me a photo of the rooftop rail catching sunset on faces. She said that angle made anyone look honest. I said, honesty looks best on people who plan for it. At 10, Mr. Benton passed with a coffee and asked if I had a moment for a quick word after lunch. He used that tone that sounds like a cushion but hides a rule. I said of course and added that my numbers were shiny today. He said he knew and that was not the issue. He walked on. Taryn raised both eyebrows from behind her monitor. I waved a hand like this was air. I focused on a messy reconciliation in the ledger and let order move through my fingers. Then I opened a tab for makeup shades that read well on camera. The colors looked like candy and decisions. A notification popped from HR with a link to the social media policy we all sign and forget. I skimmed it and smiled at the irony that I'd helped draft the last revision. Policies look like other people's cages when I feel tall. Around 11:30, 2 co-workers whispered near the copier about a bar promoter who made wives say wild things. I heard the name Rico fall like a coin. I kept walking with my posture straight because posture sends a memo of its own. At my desk, I tapped a text to Rico that read, "Coffee at 4, quick catch-up." I added a winking emoji because codes are bridges. He replied that he would be at the co-working cafe and that I always looked awake in afternoon light. I let that sit on my screen a long second so my body could pick it up. Marcus messaged about Iris's reading log and asked if I could sign tonight. I wrote that I would do it after I tested a caption. He said logs beat captions. I said both matter. He sent a thumbs up and no further words. His restraint annoyed me, because restraint does not photograph. At noon I ate a small salad and pretended I did not see Nova post a teaser that said, "Thursday honesty hits different." Hearts climbed in the corner of my screen. Taryn asked across the row if I wanted to borrow a blazer that pops on camera. I said I dressed for warmth, not bosses. She laughed and said warmth works. Mr. Benton waved me in at 1. In the quiet room, he thanked me for my work speed and then pointed at a printout of a story where our company logo sat in a corner behind my face from an old event at the same rooftop. He asked me to keep company tags and visible marks out of personal reels this week. He said the pink comments under Nova's teaser made HR nervous because strangers jump to conclusions. I said my life is my own, and I keep it tasteful. He said perception becomes part of the job whether we like it or not. I said I would be mindful. He slid a short memo across the table. The paper was warm. The toner smell felt like last night's haul. I thanked him as if this were a favor, not offense. Back at my desk, I processed 2 reimbursements fast to remind the system we were friends. Then I opened my gallery and built a draft carousel. City, glass, smile, skyline. I typed a line about humor being proof of trust. I deleted it because it felt like a dare, not a hug. My phone lit with a calendar pop I did not make. Meeting, personal, downtown, 9:25. It appeared for 1 heartbeat and then cleared by itself as if a hand pushed it under a door. I stared at the blank spot it left and felt my throat dry. I told myself I had tapped something wrong. I told myself the morning had glitches. At 3:40, I walked to the co-working cafe. I chose a seat with backlight because halos sell redemption. Rico arrived with that easy half smile that says he knows people will watch him cross a room. He asked how I was sleeping. I said clean hours. He said I looked awake in a good way. I said I had a small toast planned about couples who laugh. He said rooms love a dare. I said it was not to dare, it was honesty with sparkle. He said sparkle sells. Marcus called from the warehouse line while I was there. The screen showed private as always. I let it ring and told Rico that trust means we do not jump for every call. Rico nodded and said, "Trust is rare." His praise moved into my skin like warm air. He asked if Graham knew about our coffee. I said grown-ups can drink coffee without chaperones. He said grown-ups forget that phones are chaperones. I laughed and said phones are my friends. We talked about a charity night at the bar and whether the ring light would wash me out. He said the new light loved brown eyes. I said my eyes loved night. He asked if crowds feed me or if I feed crowds. I said both eat well when the host is brave. He told me to start with a small cut and let the room bleed laughter. I told him I knew what I was doing. On my walk back, I felt clever and tall. That is the height where I miss small rocks. When I reached the apartment after work, the hall smelled like lemon and warmed plastic. In the study, his laptop showed a clean desktop with 3 folders in a calm row. Home, auto, bank. A neat tree sat to the side for a second. Archive A, Archive B. A small cloud sync pop blinked. File uploaded successfully and faded. As I stepped in, the screen changed to a blank field. I heard the soft click of the desk drawer locking when Graham turned the key. He asked if I needed the charger. I said I needed air that did not smell like toner. He said the window opened easily. I checked the wall planner while he tied Iris's shoelace for practice, even though she already wore socks. The blue circle still sat where it sat. The sticky note inside the utilities binder still read, "Bring forms." I told myself forms are boring and therefore innocent. I told myself I love boring when it stays small. Selma texted that she could take Iris on Saturday morning so we could rest. I typed that we were fine and deleted it. then typed thank you and added a heart. Her reply was a single dot that looked like a nod. Kellen messaged Graham that he was around if needed. I saw the preview light Graham's lock screen and disappear when he flipped it face down. I set my dress for the rooftop across the bed and took a mirror photo for Nova. She sent 3 fire emojis and wrote that the first line should hit. She said people remember the first cut. I said my first line would be clean. She said clean is sharp. I agreed because agreeing felt like speed. I tried to get a soft house photo before dinner to seed calm. I asked Graham to sit by the window with Iris so I could capture a warm moment. He said he would sit after he answered one email. He sat at the desk. The cloud icon flashed. File uploaded successfully. The desktop tree flicked open to Archive B and then closed. The drawer clicked. I told myself he was archiving manuals because men love manuals more than men love talking. He poured water and placed 2 mugs far apart again. I slid them closer for the frame. He separated them gently and said, handles drip if they touch. I said science is an excuse. He said excuses are a kind of science too. I said we speak different languages. He said neighbors can still live on the same street. Taryn sent me a last-minute message asking if I needed a photographer's arm at the bar. I told her to enjoy her own night and maybe film from the far table. She sent a thumbs up. Rico messaged under the single emoji that he would be at the rail by 9 and that the ring light loved certain angles. I said angles loved me back. He sent a peach I ignored again. I drew a line in my notes app. Jokes prove comfort. I added, comfort proves trust. I felt smart. I looked at Graham and saw him place Iris's backpack by the door with the careful way he places lines on paper. He thanked me for ordering milk earlier, even though he had ordered it. I said you're welcome because grace is free when it is cheap. The rooftop looked like a stage someone set for me. The city ran behind the glass rail in long lines of light. I arrived early and chose a table near the edge because cameras love edges. Rico waved from the bar and said the ring light was ready. I said the night was ready for me. He sent 2 drinks over from the house. I told myself the gift meant I was important, not easy. Graham arrived in a plain jacket, simple and steady. He asked if we could eat first and keep things soft. I said a little sparkle before bread helps the mood. He set his phone face down and nodded at the skyline like he wanted the view to speak for us. Nova and 2 friends slid into the side table with their cameras already open. She made a small circle with her finger like a director and mouthed that I should stand when the song ended. I liked that she believed in me. Rico tapped a glass at the bar and said the night liked brave couples. I said it liked me best. Graham asked if I could keep my voice low. I said whispers were for secrets. He looked at the water and let quiet do his talking. I called it a performance even though it was restraint. Plates came with pretty greens and tiny saucers. The server wished us happy night. People clapped because clapping is cheap. I rose before the first fork hit a mouth. I said we did not hide hard things. I said jokes show comfort, and comfort shows trust. Heads turned, phones lifted. Someone near the heaters said this felt like a live show. I felt taller than the lights. Rico stepped close with a grin and raised his glass. He said the room needed a toast. A chant built fast because crowds love clear instructions. He egged the rhythm until it felt rude to sit. Graham touched my wrist and asked if we could skip speeches. I said short is kind. I turned to the tables and smiled like a teacher with a secret. I said, people always ask if small things matter. I raised my pinky with a laugh and said some men carry pinky finger energy and big hearts, and we all make it work. The word pinky rolled out like a coin. For 1 second, the room held its breath. Then a hot mix of laughs and gasps broke open. Nova let out a high sound and filmed. 2 strangers yelled that I was savage like it was praise. I felt the rush and said it was only humor, nothing cruel. I said laughter proves strength. I said we had nothing to hide. Graham did not stand, did not shout, did not argue. He set his napkin down flat and said we would speak later. His calm scraped my shine. I said later is a code word for never. He said we would speak later again, in the same tone. He turned his glass in a slow circle, as if it were a compass pointing away from me. Nova pushed the clip to a group chat with a caption about fearless wives. Hearts popped along the side of her screen. Rico clapped and said, "Honesty sells out every night." I bowed my head a little and called it art. At the next table, a woman whispered that I was brave. Her friend whispered that I was cruel. I pretended not to hear the second word and swallowed the first like sugar. The music changed. I felt the shape of the moment slipping and tried to catch it with more talk. I said size jokes were only air, and that real love is about teamwork. Someone shouted that teamwork needs respect. I said respect looks different in modern homes. The air cooled around that line. Graham asked the server for water and thanked her with a soft voice that made me want to pinch him just to make sound. Rico slid a hand in the air like a conductor and said, "The bar loves truth." I told myself truth is the same as attention. That is my worst math. I stepped to the smoking patio for a breath and a pose. The wind pressed my dress to my legs and pushed hair across my cheek in a way I knew would look good. Two women near the heaters stared and then looked down at their screens. One of them lifted her phone and pretended to aim at the skyline. I angled my shoulder to give her what she wanted. Nova joined me and said the clip was already getting shared. She said I should post the line right now with a cute caption. I said captions need time. She said time loses heat. We argued with our eyes and then filmed a tiny boomerang smile to keep the moment warm. Inside, I found Graham by the stairwell with headphones on. He spoke into his phone in a low voice like he was building a small private box in the middle of a crowd. I heard only little words. He said boundaries. He said yes, then archive A, and then uploaded. He listened a long time. He said he understood and ended the call when he saw me. He asked if I wanted to go home and talk. I said we could talk here. He said crowds make me louder. I said quiet men cause that. He did not answer. He looked at the exit sign like it was a map. We moved toward the elevators. Rico leaned on the rail and told me the joke would trend by morning. He said I had to name the line so people could find it. I said it already had a name in my head. He laughed and said I was built for nights like this. Graham kept walking. He did not touch my arm. He did not rush. He existed like a straight line on a page, calm and stubborn. In the hallway, a couple backed up to make room. The woman glanced at Graham and then at me with that look people give when they know a fresh cut when they see one. I smiled and called it envy. I live by easy names. We reached the parking garage. The air tasted like chalk and cold coins. Our car faced the street in a clean line. I told myself that meant nothing. Graham opened the passenger door for me. I did not get in. He closed it without force and said home was better. I said the bar was where the night lived. He said our night was done. He said we would speak in the morning. I said mornings are for rushing and avoiding. He said mornings are for clarity. A new clip hit my phone. It showed me lifting my pinky, laughing, owning the shape of the moment. It also showed Graham's face at the edge, still and tired. Hearts jumped fast up the side like a game score, and I felt the same shot of power that always tricks me. A push alert from a gossip account popped with the words, savage wife, calm husband, and I liked it before my hand remembered who I am. Graham's phone lit with a call marked private. He declined it. He placed both hands on the roof of the car and breathed. He looked like a person who chooses a map and follows it even if the road gets dark. I called it stubborn in my head, because stubborn is easier than strong. Rico's message arrived under the single emoji. He said the internet loved a villain, and that I should pick one fast. I told him the world already had one. Silence. He sent back sparkles. I read them as a medal. A small preview flashed on my lock screen titled Statement, and then vanished before I could tap it. The word made a thin line across my chest. I stared at the screen as if staring could pull the message back. The garage lights buzzed. Somewhere a car door thumped shut. I told myself these were nothing sounds. Graham asked again if I wanted a ride home or space. I said I wanted him to defend me with words. He said defense was not the skill we needed. He said respect was. I said respect is what people say when they want me smaller. He said respect is what keeps people whole. He opened the driver door and waited. I did not move. The moment sat between us like a box I did not want to open because I already knew what was inside. He finally said we would talk at home and got in. I stayed outside and watched the elevator doors open and close for other people. One bell chimed, then another, like a little clock reminding me that time does not care about my brand. I took one more photo of the skyline to prove to myself the night still belonged to me. The picture looked fine and empty. We met Selma and Kellen at a family restaurant with long tables and glossy menus that stuck to elbows. Selma rose and kissed my cheek with careful pressure. She asked if we slept well. I said we celebrated honesty. She said routines help children. Marcus thanked her for arranging the table. I set my phone near the salt as if it were a flower. The server poured coffee and called us a brave family. I like that word even when it hurts someone else. I tried to own the room before anyone else did. I said last night showed we were not the kind of couple that hides. I said jokes prove comfort, and comfort proves trust. Selma folded her napkin into a neat bar and asked if kindness could lead for a while. I said soft truth is delay. Kellen asked Marcus about a job site and kept his eyes away from me. I called that timid in my head and then called it respect when it stung. Iris tugged my sleeve and asked if Daddy's face was sad because I made people laugh. I said Daddy was just quiet. She asked if Mommy meant to hurt him for laughs. The knives in that sentence were small and clean. I smiled and said grown-ups teach with humor. Selma slid Iris closer to her seat and said, boundaries protect children. I said boundaries are fear in a coat. Marcus asked the server for more water. His voice was even. Even voices make me feel like I am shouting. The plates came. Syrup shone on pancakes like a camera trick. I tried a small speech about being real in public so children do not learn shame. Iris asked if Daddy would leave if people clapped too loud again. Marcus said, families choose steady steps. I said applause means love. Selma placed her hand over Iris's and said, love can be quiet too. I felt the room tilt and told myself chairs wobble in old places. We walked to the park after brunch. The swing squeaked like little doors that needed oil. Two parents near the slide paused their talk when we passed. I raised my chin and said we were stronger than ever. Marcus said records matter more than noise. I asked what records meant. He said nothing else. Iris asked if I would make another joke tonight. I said maybe later. She asked if later means never. I did not love the echo. Selma pointed at ducks on the pond and told Iris to count, and Iris counted as if numbers could fix breath. On the bench, my phone kept lighting with hearts under Nova's clip. A stranger wrote that I was brave. Another wrote that I was cruel. I liked the first and pretended I never saw the second. Kellen stood by the path with his hands in his pockets and spoke with Marcus in low tones. They both nodded. Their nods looked like a code I did not know. We stopped at the supermarket for bread and milk. The light was too white. A neighbor from our building stood by the apples and watched us with a soft frown. She asked if we were okay. I said we were great. She said hard weeks pass faster with gentle voices. I said I was the gentle one. Marcus added pasta to the basket and asked if we needed anything else. I said we needed Grace. He nodded like Grace was on aisle 5. At checkout, my phone pulsed once with a calendar reminder I never made. Downtown 1605. The alert blinked and vanished before I could touch it. I stared at the empty space it left like a missing tooth. The cashier asked if we wanted bags. I said yes, and sounded like I had been underwater. Marcus took the bags and thanked the cashier by name. He remembers names. I remember lights. Back home, the hallway smelled like lemon and warm plastic. 2 mugs waited on opposite counters again, handles pointed away from each other like strangers at a bus stop. I moved them together for 1 second, and then apart again, because the photo would look honest that way. Iris set her sticker sheet on the table and asked if grown-ups say, sorry when they make jokes that sting. I said we fix things better than sorry. Marcus said, sorry is a start. I said captions help more. Selma's eyes touched mine and did not move. Eyes can be walls. I drifted toward the study. The printer light glowed without printing. On the shelf sat the thin binder labeled Utilities, thicker than last month. I opened it. Inside the cover, a sticky note said, Bring forms in his neat script. Under the taxes folder, a small USB was taped flat, steady, like it had always lived there. The smell of toner rose even though the tray was empty. I told myself a neighbor had printed. The air just traveled. Marcus stepped into the doorway with headphones around his neck. He asked if I needed the desk. I said I needed him to stop acting like a clerk in my life. He said he was organizing his own. I said, organization is punishment in a suit. He said order is kindness over time. Iris called from the sofa to ask if crowns fix fights. I said crowns make people remember who they are. Marcus said crowns are for plays. I reached for the desk drawer. It locked with a small final click as my hand touched the handle. Marcus turned the key once and placed it on his ring. A new, unfamiliar key shone there, simple and plain. I asked what it opened. He said storage. I asked storage for what. He said not urgent. The printer hummed and slid a single blank page like a sigh. I watched it settle on the tray as if it could explain anything. I took Iris to her Saturday dance class at the community center and planned a soft photo for later. The hall smelled like dust and mats. Parents leaned on the wall as if the paint held them up. I asked Graham to stand with us for one quick picture. He said we should focus on Iris's routine. I said a family photo shows support. He stepped aside toward the notice board and slipped on headphones. His lock screen flashed for a second before he turned it over. A narrow alarm slid across. It read, Paper drop 10:30. He dismissed it like he was watering a plant. I called it theatre in my head and told myself he wanted me to look small. After class, Iris wanted stickers. We stopped at the pharmacy. A neighbor from our building waited 2 spots ahead and gave me that pity smile people think looks kind. She asked if we were okay. I said we were great. She said gentle voices help hard weeks. I said I was the gentle one. Graham thanked the cashier by name and handed Iris the sticker sheet. His steady tone made me feel like I was shouting even when I was not. Back home, I arranged cushions and tried for a warm couch shot. I asked Graham to sit close so I could post a quiet carousel. He said he had to answer an email first. He walked to the study. The laptop woke. A small cloud popped in the corner, file uploaded successfully, and faded. On the desktop, 3 folders sat in a neat row: Home, Auto, Bank. A clean tree, labeled Archive A and Archive B, flicked open and closed. The desk drawer clicked as he turned the key. The sound was small, but my skin read it as a door. I followed him to the kitchen and said he was punishing me with order. He said order helps us breathe. I said order steals oxygen. He said anger steals it faster. I said the pinky joke saved us from secrets. He said the joke was humiliation. I said he was rewriting history. He said he was writing down steps. I told him steps were for cowards. He said steps were for adults. Iris asked if we could go to the park again. I said later. Selma texted that she could take Iris for the afternoon. I typed that we were fine, and then erased it and typed yes. Graham tied Iris's shoes and thanked his mother with a short reply. Iris asked if crowns fix fights. I said crowns make people remember who they are. Graham said crowns are for plays. I told myself he loved props more than people. When the door closed, the apartment changed sound. The shredder in the study hummed once and stopped. I walked in and found the thin binder labeled Utilities on the shelf, thicker than last month. Inside the cover, a sticky note read, "Bring forms in neat script." Under the taxes folder, a single USB was taped flat, sure. The printer woke and fed out a single blank page like a sigh. I said out loud that this was all theatre. No one answered me. I asked Graham for a stairwell photo before Iris came back. He said no to pictures. I said I needed a public reset. He said we did not owe strangers a show. I said strangers will talk if we stay silent. He said strangers can talk to themselves. I said silence is cruel. He said silence is kind when tempers run hot. I said he could not freeze me out and expect love to live. He held my eyes and spoke like he was measuring wood. He said he would handle this properly. The word properly landed like a metal ruler on a desk. I asked what properly meant. He said steps, not scenes. He said no more surprises, no more sudden speeches, and no more turning family into content. I said I wanted details. He said I would see them when it was time. I said time is a trick. He said time is how we stop breaking things. He picked up his keys. A new, unfamiliar key shone on the ring. I asked what it opened. He said storage. I asked storage for what? He said not urgent. He put on his jacket and moved toward the door. I followed into the stairwell, where the light was soft and the air cooler. I said he could not talk to me like a meeting agenda. He said we had a child, and we would do the next part with care. I reached for his sleeve. He stepped back without heat and repeated the word properly. He walked down the stairs with measured steps that made no echo. I went to the parking garage because I wanted a picture of us getting into the car later, even if it was just me and a caption promising peace. His car faced the street in a clean line. A thin labeled bin already sat in the trunk. He adjusted it and closed the lid gently, like people do when they respect objects more than noise. Headphones settled on his neck for a hallway call. I heard only follow-up and a calm understood. I chose the bright coat because bright things look like hope in lobbies. The office tower smelled like watered plants and new carpet. I stood near the directory and practiced a soft face for the lunch photo I planned to post after we reset. Kellen waited by the windows with his hands in his pockets, pretending to read the map. He nodded once at Graham when the elevator opened. Graham stepped out in his plain jacket, looking rested in a way that was not sleep. He said now was a good time to be clear. I said, "Clarity loves coffee." He said Clarity should not need coffee. I said I had a soft apology if that helped. He said patterns mattered more than apologies. A woman in a neat suit approached with a slim folder and a calm voice. She asked if I was Ligeia Morrow. I said yes. She asked me to confirm my address. I did. She said she had documents for me. She handed over a packet and explained, in simple phrases, what it was. The packet contained a civil complaint for defamation and privacy against me regarding the rooftop video and related posts. It included a takedown demand and instructions to preserve all records. It listed immediate steps and dates. The tone did not cut, it measured. She asked if I had questions about receiving the documents. I said I did not understand why this was happening here. She said public service keeps things clean. She nodded once and stepped back. The lobby kept moving. A stroller rolled by. The security guard spoke quietly into a small radio. The light from the doors made a white stripe on the floor. I looked at the first page and saw our names inside steady boxes that did not care about my captions. I said the joke was only humor. Graham said the joke was humiliation. I said the internet loves edge and moves on. He said our child does not live on the internet and does not move on that fast. I said I could fix it with one post. He said this was not a caption problem. Kellen stayed near the windows, not inserting himself, like a friend holding a door that was not his. My phone buzzed. Selma texted that Iris was with her and happy, building a paper-crowned city, and that lunch was soon. The words laid a small hand on my shoulder and then slid off. Nova sent nothing. The group chat that had cheered my rooftop line showed no new hearts. Silence online feels heavier than noise. I took one step toward Graham. He took half a step back and said all contact would now be through the proper channels listed in the packet. He said there were specific requests to remove the video and any reposts I controlled. He said there were instructions to preserve messages and clips so facts would not get blurred. He said there were notes about public statements and that we would follow them. He spoke like a person leveling a shelf. I said he could have told me at home. He said home had turned into a stage. I said stages make people brave. He said stages had made me cruel. I said I still loved him. He said love without respect had already broken us. I said I could change. He said change is actions, not applause. He thanked the woman for her time. He thanked Kellen for showing up. He kept his voice even, not sharp, not warm, just straight. I held the packet and felt heat climb my neck. I said this was over one line. He said it was about a pattern and a public wound. I said I could delete everything. He said deletion after damage was not the same as care before harm. The security guard's radio clicked. A printer somewhere hummed and stopped. I remembered our kitchen with 2 mugs far apart, the thin binder labeled utilities, the sticky note bring forms, the USB under taxes, the clean desktop tree Archive A and Archive B, the alarm that read paper drop 10:30. They were not decorations. They were steps. He said he would pick up Iris at the time he and Selma had set and return her at the time set until further notice. He said any messages to him should go through the contact method listed. He said he wished for peace and would act toward it. I said peace sounded like a wall. He said walls keep children safe when rooms get loud. The woman in the suit returned and asked for a quick signature to confirm receipt. I signed on the small pad. The line of my name looked stiff and neat. She thanked me and stepped away. I held the packet like a gift bag with the wrong gift inside. Kellen gave Graham a small nod that meant he was nearby if needed, and then focused on the street again. People passed us, polite and quiet, the way people are when they see something real and want it to end well without entering it. I said we could still have soup together and talk like adults. He said the time for talking in crowds had passed. He stepped toward the elevator and pressed the button. I said this was not the story I wanted. He said stories follow choices. He added that he would handle the rest properly. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next story. Write in the comments from which city you are watching.